Welcome to Midweek Live, middle of your week, middle of your day. So glad that you guys are joining us, whether that's listening back on podcast or watching back live right now, or maybe later today. I'm excited to be talking. Gosh, this has been homeschooling. That's the word. That's the word we're going to be talking about today. And this kind of seems like one of those things that became a lot more prominent, a lot more talked about come 2020, when a lot of parents were having to make some decisions and just really, I really feel like it came to the forefront for many parents. Now, I was not one of them because my kid was graduating. My youngest was graduating in 2020, so I was not in that boat. But I know I have many friends that were in this. I have coworkers even that were kind of deciding what to do, and so many questions. There were so many questions. And so, Emy, you have been a homeschooler how long?
2 years.
2 years. So in 2020, you started this. You started this whole thing, and you were just like many parents. What was the mindset of, okay, maybe we need to consider doing homeschooling?
So I guess I'll start by saying that I believe that homeschooling is a very personal journey for every family. There are many families out there that choose to homeschool for a variety of reasons. For me, I would say about when my son was about 4 years old, I started to feel a prompting from the Lord that, he kind of wanted me to scale back on work and focus more on my son. My son has some learning challenges, and so I started to notice things that needed more attention. And I had him enrolled in TK, eventually kindergarten. We went through first grade, and that prompting just didn't leave. And I felt like the Lord was really saying to me, you need to be with him at home. And so I didn't want to listen.
I was going to say that's probably kind of hard. I mean, like being a mom myself.
Yeah.
There's a part of being a mom that is, I'm going to be honest, it's really exhausting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to do it well, I think we have a standard for ourselves, right? To do it well means you want to be refreshed and renewed, to have the energy to pour out for your kid. And sometimes that refreshment comes from taking a break, and not being with them all the time. So is that part of the struggle that you were having? Is like, oh man, okay.
My struggle really had more to do with my career path. So I actually was a public school teacher. Started my career teaching. I went into administration. I've worked with a lot of teachers. I teach in the credential program at Fresno State. I'm around teachers all the time. And public education has been a big part of my my career. And so I had a little bit of a internal and personal struggle between is this right or this wrong? And so I really had to work through that. And I think that was the biggest challenge for me was what is right for my child? And that's where I've come to recognize through meeting other homeschooling families and their individual journeys that it really is a very personal decision. I think we're really blessed to live in this country where we have access to free public education for everyone. We also have the ability to choose to homeschool. And school choice is very important. And so I started to explore homeschooling as I started to see my son struggle in the general education environment. He has learning challenges, so he was on an IEP. We had all the right supports in place for him, and yet it still wasn't really what he needed. And so I prayed a lot about it, and I knew that the Lord was saying to me that I needed to focus in on him a little bit more. And I struggled to step away from my career. I just was battling between who I am in my career and who I am as a mother. And so there was this this rub that was happening.
I mean, I'm reading between the lines here, but I kind of feel like you're saying you've kind of like devoted your life to did teaching and then went into administration. And so you've gained this ground. You've taken ground in your career, and you were really giving up kind of the definition of who you were maybe at that point in time. A lot of who you were was wrapped up in the fact
an identity.
That,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was an identity that I felt like I was kind of losing, I think. And, I was an older mom, so I didn't have my son till I was about 35, and then, had already had an established career. And so throughout our homeschooling journey, I have met so many different mothers, a variety of ages, many that are in their, very young, in their 20s, and older moms who have been doing this for, a long time. I've met moms who, and dads who are full-time employees.
Wow. And
they make it work. I've met those that are stay at home. And so it really does look very different for every family.
Yeah.
And it has, I think at the end of the day, it's a personal decision, and it's really based on what's in the best interest of your child or your children.
Yeah.
So
I want to dig in for just a moment, having had my kids in public school, their whole experience. I did 1 year of private school, private Christian school when I was in 3rd grade. So I've only experienced 1 year of private public schools for the most part. And I will say that one of my kids did perfectly fine in the system, really didn't have any issue really.
Yeah.
And the other one struggled quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they're both extremely smart. They're both extremely, good kids. The issue with my kids was always that if one was struggling, a teacher wouldn't really even notice.
No. Yeah.
Because they weren't loud or causing a big distraction in class. They were always obedient and always, so they silently struggled. And the silent struggle can go on for a very long time without anybody noticing.
Right.
Some markers need to take place in testing or in, some part of an intuition that a parent has that goes, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't feel right. My kid is lacking confidence in this, or you're finding out that a teacher is telling them something that you might
be hurting their feelings.
Yeah, maybe like affecting their confidence.
Them. Yeah.
And so, and not to say, our teachers, you've been one of them, you know what it has cost you. It's a very hard job.
And
exactly.
rewarding.
And rewarding, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I love that you're really focusing on the fact that this is not a one size fits all answer.
Yeah.
This was a prayerful, really kind of a long process, because I'm hearing you really kind of feeling a prompt but kind of ignoring it for years.
Well, and when the pandemic happened, all the children went home.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, again, still having this prompting, wasn't ready to make a decision, was really kind of pushing back against the Lord. If I'm being honest, I really was. I didn't want to hear that. And so when all the children went home, it was this interesting thing happened where, obviously you're Zooming with the teacher and the kids are in the classroom. My child happened to be one of those children that actually thrived on Zoom because the stimulus and the sensory overload of the classroom was now not there, and he was comfortable. He was at home. He can get a snack when he needed it.
Wow.
I just started to see that, okay, Lord, you're showing me that he now has the ability to learn in an environment that's safe for him. Like, this is what safety is for him. And not that school wasn't safe. It's just that for his nervous system, for his the way that he operates, for the neurodiversity in his brain, he needed to have a little more distance from all that stimulation. Now, some children, they really struggled through the pandemic. And so, again, it really is, for us, for me, it revealed, like, this is what I need to do for him right now. So that's when we made the decision. I feel like, the Lord, he's amazing, and everything happens in his timing. And I just, for my son, the transition was natural because everybody went home.
Right.
Everybody was being homeschooled, and so to speak.
Sure.
So it wasn't like he was any different. and he didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't in trouble.
A little bit of a blessing. It's kind of packaged up in a way that he's not feeling like it's about him.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he did go through a little bit of a grieving that, I'm not going to see my friends. I didn't get to say goodbye. So we processed that quite a bit. But through that year, I took that year to really kind of dig into what is homeschooling about? Yeah. What are the philosophies? I learned that there were so many different ways that people homeschool. Yeah. If you look at a spectrum of homeschooling from people who are very, maybe they're unschoolers is what they would classify themselves as. They kind of allow the child to lead and determine their interests, and you kind of go with that, to much more structured. Yeah. Like they use a curriculum, and they have a schedule in place each day, just very similar to a school day. So there's everything on either spectrum and in between. And I would say for us, where we are right now, personally in my home, is we're somewhere in between. I like to give my son he has a lot of quirky interests. He's on the autism spectrum, so he's very I would say kind of advanced in some ways, and really loves to learn facts about things, whether it's planets or dinosaurs or whatever it might be. He can lock that in. Yeah. But then there's other things that he really struggles with. Yeah. And so those are the things that I have to be intentional about and structure for him. Yeah. And support him in. And I've done everything from, find a college tutor to come into my home for, an hour at a time. It looks different. It looks different this year than it did last year. Okay. And it's going to look different again this coming year. Right. And I'm just really in this stage of allowing it to evolve the way it needs to for whatever it is that he needs. Yeah. And, a lot of people ask about socialization. How do you socialize a homeschooled child or children? In my home, he's our only child, so it is a little challenging. He doesn't have a lot of, he's cousins and things like that, but we don't have any other kids running around the house. So I've connected with other homeschool groups on Facebook. Yeah. There are a couple of organizations in town that kind of bring homeschool families together. They do field trips, they do meetups, and those kinds of things. So really where my heart is right now is I'm looking at, our community here in NorthPointe, and I've met a few families here and there that are also homeschooling or have asked questions. Yes. And I just have, I feel like the Lord is guiding me to just bring people together here at NorthPointe that are interested in homeschooling or maybe have questions about it. And how do you get started? What does that look like?
Literally, my exact question was going to be, you've made the decision, now what? Yeah. What's that first step? The internet is full of all kinds of different avenues you can go down. Is there direction you would give someone? I mean, it's summer. That parent might be right now going, okay, I've really got to narrow down and really nail down a decision before school year starts.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I'll start with saying that there is a way to homeschool through the public school system. Okay. There are independent charters. Okay. California actually has, it's interesting, we have one of the most kind of flexible ways of doing this that I've seen, because I've kind of looked at other states and what they offer homeschooling wise. And there are some independent charters that do give you the flexibility to design your day, your homeschooling day. There is a charter in town that will give a family some funding to pay for extracurricular activities. There's a list of vendors that they approve, and you can spend the funding on any of those vendors. Like Break the Barriers, for example, is a vendor.
That's fantastic.
So if a family wants to sign their children up for taekwondo and gymnastics, they have the funding to do that.
Because that was one of the questions that I had sent you, was asking about sports or activities or clubs, or because they miss out on some of the other things besides the learning that you have in school. And not to say that every kid that goes to public schools are involved in all of those things, but if you have a kid that is interested in those things and you've pulled them out of the educational side of it in the classroom, where is the play? And I love that. Break the Berries is a great place for
the extracurriculars, which is your PE.
Right. I was going to say
physical education
falls under PE.
And that might happen at 10 in the morning or at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you kind of, gauge when it's the best time for your family. In my instance, we decided to apply for what's called a private school affidavit, which is a PSA. Okay. It's essentially opening up your own private school. Every family that decides to do this can have up to, I think, an enrollment of 5 students.
Wow.
So ideally you would have up to 5 children, maybe in your household that you're homeschooling. And so I have an enrollment of 1 in my private school. And, if there was another family out there that was interested, I'd be able to enroll them into my school, that kind of thing. So with a private school affidavit, you are basically paying for everything on your own. Okay. And for me, what was really important was flexibility. Yeah. My son attends speech therapy, occupational therapy. We do drumming.
Yeah, that's great. Dexterity.
Yeah. He actually does play sports through a nonprofit called the Magic Fresno.
Okay. Which I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So Tina Salvador, who's
Special Stars
ministry leader, she has a network of special needs families and has shared out lots of great resources online. Awesome. And one of them was Magic Fresno, and that's how I found out about it. And they have they have various leagues that they do all year round.
That's so cool.
So my son has played soccer. He's played baseball. He's played basketball. We're about to do bowling.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there's opportunity out there.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like it's about community and fellowship. It's an opportunity to share these resources, to connect. And when you homeschool, you do have to be more intentional to create that.
Absolutely.
Because the school system has that set up. And when you homeschool, you are the school system.
Yep. You're it.
So you have to figure out what does that look like for our family.
Yeah.
And what's, like I said, what are the where are the interests of my child, and how can I foster that?
What would you say? By the way, I have somebody who posted in here that there's a lot of ladies in Mom to Mom that are interested in this.
Oh, wonderful!
Which I think is pretty cool. But my question to you, because if this was me and we were to rewind time, my kids were younger, and I was considering this, one of the very first things I would even think would be, I'm so incapable of teaching my kids. I can't do that. Like, there's no way. Is that just my own insecurity and lack of knowledge of what is out there as far as being equipped, or is that true? You have to kind of be.
Yeah,
I mean, you're coming from a teacher background.
Yeah, and I will say, even though I have an educational background, I'm still insecure in my schooling approach with my child, because he's so unique. Each of our children are so unique. And, sometimes you sit there and you think, I can teach 2 + 2. Right. But my kid doesn't want to sit here for 10 minutes. So how am I going to teach them anything if they can't sit still? Right. And so sometimes it's, I have gone through those days where I just cry out to the Lord and I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm going to just give this up to you because, maybe we need a break. We need to go on a walk. We need to go on a bike ride. It's not working right now. And other days it's flashes of brilliance. And I'm like, wow, we got through something really amazing. Yeah. So I've resorted to celebrating the small things. Yeah. Just the small steps that where I see growth. Yeah. That's worth celebrating. Yeah. And every day, since I've changed my mindset, every day I've been able to find something to celebrate. Yeah. And even if it's social emotional growth. We had a yard sale a week, I think last weekend, And yeah, it was actually Saturday after summer extreme days. I was crazy.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Woke up early and we had a yard sale.
Crazy.
But part of that was I wanted my son to learn how to, collect some of his toys and not hoard and be okay with letting go of things. We're working on money counting.
So that covers
and interaction with community. So people were coming and asking questions like, how much is this? And he got to tell them about his toys and how much he was selling it for. He had to count the money, give them change. So it really was just it's about kind of, looking for the opportunity in the everyday. And, that was a big win for me. So summer extreme days for us is part of our schooling. I'm looking forward to Kids Corps this coming year.
Yeah.
Tuesday nights is going to be his first time participating. That's going to be part of our schooling.
Wow.
Sundays at church is part of our schooling, know. So I really look at it more holistically, I think, now.
Definitely. Does it work the same? Like, I go to school, I've got to pass certain tests in school to confirm I've learned that portion of whatever it is that I'm supposed to know to advance to the next grade.
Yeah. So depending on whether you go the public charter route, or they will have a set curriculum that they've adopted. Sometimes they let you select the curriculum, and they give you the funding they'll give you a list of what's
considered required,
what's allowed for each of the core subject areas. And so you would follow that. And I know with the public charters, they have a teacher that is kind of like has a caseload of families.
She just kind of keeps a tally on.
And I've never done the public charter route, so I can't speak too much to it, but I know from friends that they will actually ask for artifacts at the end of the month. Can you show us evidence of how they've met these standards and those kinds of things. The private school route, you have a lot of flexibility. So I kind of set the pacing calendar. I get to decide where my son is. In public school, he would be going into 4th grade next year. I've decided to hold him back a grade, so he's actually going into 3rd grade. And that's because that's where he is, academically. And
sorry, interrupting. I'm just
No
thinking
problem.
here. He won't know that though.
No.
And that's kind of the beauty of that, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you know it when all of your friends are in a different room, in a different grade, and on a different schedule.
You also know when you are in 4th grade and you're on a 2nd grade reading level and everybody else can read and you are struggling. Like that takes a toll on a child's self-esteem, their confidence. Not every child learns to read at the same pace.
Absolutely.
So there's beauty in this process for me because I know that I'm I don't know if the right word is protecting, but I feel like I'm allowing him to be himself. I'm allowing him to be who God made him right now, and allowing him to find joy in that and not feel like he's less than.
Which can absolutely be the message when I know someone who was held back in kindergarten, and they know that. Even as we've always known that. Kindergarten is the youngest age you can be aware of that.
Yes.
But it sticks with you.
It does.
It stays with you. No matter what people tell you, oh, it's because you were small. It was, it sticks with you to remember that.
Yeah.
And so I think it's something really worth mentioning that, gosh, like I said, he'll never know that.
Yeah.
He'll never know it.
Unless he watches this video one day.
Right. Yeah. That's right. No biggie. No biggie.
But he won't. And, even with family, who are, I think sometimes even within our own family structures, it's hard for grandma and grandpa 100%. And cousins and things like that to kind of understand.
Me. It should work,
Yeah. So, I just say, he's going into 3rd grade.
Yep.
They're like, oh, I thought he was going into 4th grade.
Yeah.
Nope, he's going into 3rd grade.
Yeah.
So
have there been what would you say are the highs and the lows of it? And what are some of the surprises that you have come across along the way? I mean, it's been 2 years now.
Yeah. I think the highs have been being able to have experiences that we wouldn't have otherwise if we were in a 7-hour school day, 5 days a week.
You're talking about bonding.
Bonding, yeah. I mean, we've been able to do field trips to museums, and if we're learning about dinosaurs, we'll go visit the Fossil Museum in Madeira. And, if there's, he was into marine mammals for a little while, so we'd go to Monterey.
Yeah.
The flexibility to do some of that. It's not that we are in the car driving every week, but I can plan those things,
right,
and kind of make them a culminating experience. Right. I can reach out to other families that, hey, are you interested in maybe going with us to Monterey so we can have some social time with the kids. I can have some time with other moms. But again, I think that's where one of the lows is that so much of it is intentional. And it's trying to find community in all of that. Yeah. It can be a little bit lonely.
Siloing, a little siloing. Yeah. And that's really the point of having the homeschool group, yes, is that you want to say, I want to be able to do this and have a community of people that are choosing the same thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that, because in other words, you're saying, I'm sure the way that I'm feeling is I'm not the only one feeling this way.
Yes.
Right.
So I think that's where I'm really trying to be more obedient to how the Lord is trying to use me in this season of life. And I do sense that from other families. I know I'm feeling it. So I just really desire to kind of build a network and connect and see if there's other families out there that want to do the same thing.
Yeah. And you've done it a little bit already, am I right?
I have. Yeah. I've had to they have park meetups, and you have to put yourself out there. You show up, you drive up to a park, there's all these kids running around. There's moms kind of, in groups talking. Some moms are chasing their kids, and some are standing by a tree by themselves.
Yes.
So I had to make the conscious decision to just go and get out of the car.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, it was actually our first homeschool meetup. My son, we drove up to Shaver Lake.
Okay.
And they were having a thing at Shaver Lake, and there were probably 20 cars there as we're pulling up. And my son says, Mom, I'm nervous. I don't know anybody here. And I just looked at him and I'm like, I'm nervous too. I don't know anybody here either. And so I just said, we're going to go out there and we're going to meet some new people.
Yeah.
Today will just be about meeting new people, and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then when we're ready to leave, we'll leave. So that's what we did. And, we got to meet a few new people and introduce ourselves, and he had some fun, and then we left. Yeah. So
it kind of is a good thing to be reminded of how uncomfortable those situations can be, huh? As a parent, I feel like we are always pep talking our kids up for first day of school, or
go,
and it's like you'll be fine. But when you are sitting in that same boat with them, it is surely a different experience.
Yes. Yeah, we have the same anxieties as adults.
Absolutely.
And our brains are developed.
Right. Exactly.
And they're still in developmental mode, and they're so they really do need us to model that for them and to feel safe.
Absolutely. And we're all looking to be able to be accepted by other people, and that doesn't leave us. That doesn't leave us. We walk into
even at church.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. What words of encouragement would you give a mom prayerfully considering this as an option? Or dad.
Yeah, or dad. Yeah, because there are definitely days where I work still and I work mostly from home, and my husband works, and so there are days we have to switch off, and he's in charge. So I would say it's a personal decision, and you've got to think about what's right for your family, what's right for your children. And I know probably the biggest challenge for a lot of the moms that I've talked to is the work situation, and being able to afford going part-time or not working at all, or continuing to work full-time. I know some moms that school in the evening and on the weekends. Wow. And they've just have to schedule it that way. Right. So I would say find. I'm here, first of all. I'm here to be a sounding board. Yeah. And I desire to be that. I want to be able to help other families decide if that's right for them.
Right. So when you say, like, when we talk about this group, this is part of the group is
support.
Hey, support. Just even if you decide not to come, so that we can talk about it, maybe answer questions and dialogue about it, and
we can look online
at give resources. We can talk about things,
the various resources, or how to do it, how to get started. Sometimes filling out forms online for the private school affidavit can be a little confusing. I had to muddle my way through that as well. So I know other moms that do the public school route, so I have familiarity with that because of my job, but also because I've connected with other families that do that. So, I think I want to be a resource and a support system to any families here at NorthPointe who are considering it, as well as, start creating a network.
Yeah. We were talking, by the end of this week, we'll have a Facebook group up.
Yes.
And so that's a great place for you to go ahead and ask some questions and connect with you. And, when you are a part of a group, a Facebook group, you can ask questions just like you would in a normal, chat kind of a situation. You're looking to approve people to make sure, that it keeps it safe and all of that. But that's a great place for them to ask about resources and to connect with you.
Yes, I'm actually I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna post an event that hopefully can be posted on the main NorthPointe page. But I would like to hold a Zoom meeting to just kind of see who wants to jump on and ask those questions to start.
Yeah.
And then go from there. I have some ideas for this coming school year for a potential co-op that meets on campus here at NorthPointe during the week. So I'd love to find out if there are any other families interested.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thanks for taking the time to just kind of unpack all of this. I mean, for me, there's a curiosity for sure. And like I said, I've just known so many people who have talked about this, who have done it fully, just went ahead. I mean, no matter how many kids they have, I have a friend who has 10 kids and chose to do this. I cannot imagine. Yeah. I had one that all the other ones stayed in public schools, but the younger one, it was really hard for him. And so, she kept him home. Kindergarten, it was the younger ages. Lots of different combinations, and really just a lot of them going like, I don't know, I'm just kind of figuring out as I go. Over and over again, you kind of hear that same thematic thing of like, we're just kind of making our way through and figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, and that's totally normal and a natural part of the process. And then, there are families that are going to decide to re-enter the school system.
Yeah,
and
at
that's
some point maybe.
Totally fine too.
Right.
Again, it's a very personal decision, and that's my kind of been my approach as I've talked to other families. I know there are families that have very strong opinions one way or another.
Right.
For me, I can see, I guess maybe I have a more diplomatic approach to schooling in general, especially when you have children who learn differently.
Yeah.
So I really just want to be a support to our community.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think that's really what the church is supposed to be anyway, like you build community, and especially in the places where you have common interests. And when this is so much of your life, I mean, right? It's a lot of your life. And it, like we just talked about, it can be very siloing. It can be very reclusive. You tend to be kind of really just focused on, your children, your family, your kids and stuff. So to have a group of people in a common space understanding what they're trying to do, and it's not like we're going to be upset at you if you leave and put your kid in public school. It's not that. It's just come, be a part of it, ask questions, communicate and connect with other people, other moms, other dads that are going through the same thing, that common space. And I love it. I think it's really cool. I think of every ministry birthed here comes from a passion and really what people are walking in, and they have this desire in their heart to go like, man, I want to support people going through this, or I want to meet other people going through this, or so that's how it happens, and that's really a very organic and beautiful way to like do community with others with purpose. Yeah. Right.
And I will say it's very, in any ministry, when you are at that point where you feel like this is where the Lord wants you, it can be very scary too. So there is a part of me that's like, why am I sitting here right now offering all my help? But I know that that's where the Lord wants me. And it's part of just being obedient and moving forward and pushing through the fear.
Yeah. Obedience doesn't necessarily mean it's easy.
No, absolutely not.
Oftentimes it comes with some discomfort.
Yeah.
And so I commend you. That's good. Obedience is a good place to be when we're following the Lord's leading. So good job. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming on, talking. I'll encourage people, wherever you're watching from, just look us up on Facebook, NorthPointe, MPCC Fresno. You'll see right on there, there'll be a group in the next week or so just popped in there, and we'll post about it in events. We'll if you guys don't know who to communicate with, just email online@northpointe.org. We'll get you where you need to go. And of course, thanks so much, Emy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go, guys. Make it a great rest of your week, and we'll see you on Sunday. Have a good one. Bye.